They just mentioned my name is Lola Nakashima-Brooke, and yeah, I was inducted just this morning. It's been a very long day, a lot of car rides, and I am here to read you tonight a poem that I've titled Internment in You, and I've got some historical context for this as well. My family came over to the U.S. in the early 1900s. My great-great-grandparents, Katsuharu and Susan Nakashima, made a life here and lived happily until 1942, when the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor. The Secretary of the Navy at the time, Frank Knox, falsely claimed Japanese Americans had assisted in the Pearl Harbor tragedy. Due to this, my family was all interned during World War II. My great-grandfather, their son, Victor Katsuhiro, was released to fight in the Army as he was a doctor. His brother, Theodore Katsuyoshi, who was in the camp, attempted to publish an article in the New Republic paper about the borderline inhumane conditions at the camps, which included rats, lice, the stench of manure, flies, and outbreaks of sickness. And the fact that they were also surrounded by armed guards and barbed wire. His 995-word article was rebuked in a 2,125-word one in the Oregonian, saying that he was bitter and complaining. My great-grandfather Vic had interned in a hospital in New York and had wife and children during the internment. He was a lieutenant when my Uncle Theodore wrote his article, serving while the entire family was interned at Minidoka in Idaho. He was later promoted to captain and fought in the Korean War and retired as lieutenant colonel. In 1982, 40 years after Pearl Harbor, the Commission on Wartime Relocation and Internment of Citizens concluded that Japanese Americans in Pearl Harbor had not assisted with the attack. Pearl Harbor was a horrific tragedy and no one there should have had to die, but it did not excuse the forcible internment of at least 125,000 people and the racial abuse that followed for decades. Battle of the Books this year, we argued over a book about internment, Who Gotta Read It, by Tracy Chee. The title is a little too on the nail, and I stare at the cover for a moment. We are not free. It is a question of heritage, the words held behind barbed wire in my throat. Grandpa Vic and Uncle George got out. My mom wondered aloud how awful it would have been for him, a Japanese doctor, a man with the face of an enemy, trying to treat American soldiers. I wonder if he ever saw his homeland, a place across the ocean, the wasteland left behind. Where is the sacrifice in being told to enlist, in healing, loving the people who condemn you, being forced to watch as your mother and father's country burns as a stick of incense to ash? But what choice do you have? What choice do they give you? What choice do you have left? Books splayed out with peeling covers. We have to write an essay for AP Lit. Pick one. I chose Snow Falling on Cedars about Japanese internment. Does it have to be written by a white guy? All right, the character is white, always. Why am I picking it anyway? I could reread Bel Canto. My essay would be done in a day. I remember reading the articles years ago, tasting the blood in my mouth, smelling iron, when I saw that they put children in cages at the border. But even though I was horrified, I wasn't all that surprised. This government has always liked barbed wire. Maybe it's stupid, maybe it's overreacting, but people always joke about why I distrust the government. But if I've learned anything, it's that if you think the government wouldn't do something that horrible, they already have. When I was very young enough that memories blurred and burned, singed on the edges, my mom buys So Far from the Sea by Eve Bunting. She is crying when she reads it to me, and I don't understand why. It sits on the shelf next to the book on Manzanar. My family was at Minidoka. Does it matter? Why chase the history? My great-grandpa Vic was Nisei, Grandpa Jimmy was Sansei, my mom and my Uncle Michael are Yonsei. Does this make me Gosei? Or am I just American at this point? My Grandpa Vic was.